Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Martine Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martine describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martine helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martine and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome everyone to Transformation with Martine. That's me. This is where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. For those of you that are not fully familiar, my show is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern every Friday, and my show is about hope. The guests that I invite on here are very resilient, overcoming human beings, and I, as well as they, all believe that we can get back up from anything. So today, I'm really excited to welcome my friend, my colleague. We have been in the same coaching circles, communities since, I want to say 2018. I might be a year off, but that's about right, I think, maybe 2019. So without further ado, my wonderful friend, Dr. Erin Baker, please introduce yourself a little more formally.
Hello, Martine. I'm so excited to be here and to formally pull out my fancy microphone.
Yay!
A little bit today. And I think you're right. I might have first met you almost 2 years ago. It was 2019, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I was part of the same coaching circle,
Mm-hmm.
kind of behind the scenes in 2018. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how time flies.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially since our first event, which I believe, was that in Julian, California?
First event was in Atlanta.
Oh, it was. That's right.
Yes, February 2019. And I had
Ah.
just a few months earlier left my corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been working at Facebook and Microsoft as a leader and had decided to
Right.
do this thing called coaching
Yeah.
and was trying to get my feet under me. And it was an
Mm-hmm.
amazing experience to be in a room full of however many 25 other coaches and
Right.
go, oh, right, I'm home.
Yeah, it was so powerful. And to me, there was nothing like seeing breakthroughs in people and getting breakthroughs of our own from other people's breakthroughs.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best thing to me. It's like I was
Mm-hmm.
hooked, fully hooked at that point.
Fully cooked at that point. Yep. Just this
Yeah.
morning, I was meeting with a colleague of mine, and that whole week came up as a story. So clearly, it's been imprinted in me.
Oh, for sure. So, Erin, what was your life like in the beginning? Like what brought you to not only coaching, but just to make big changes in your life? I know you've got some stories, so whatever one you want to share that just gives hope to people and shows them that they too can have whatever they want and lead a life like you are now living.
Yeah. I mean, when you say which story, it's,
Yeah.
gosh, which one? I have a lot of them. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the one that I really want to share today, because you said, we're talking about bringing me into coaching and what really brought me
Mm-hmm.
into this space.
Yeah.
And from the time I was little, I was wanting to help people.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know how. And I was really fascinated by people. Like, what makes people tick? How do
Yeah.
they think? How do they feel? Like, what makes them do what they do? And so in
Mm-hmm.
college, I studied psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And I described to my academic advisor at the time that there was this thing I wanted to do, which I now, 20 years later, recognize
Mm-hmm.
was coaching, but it wasn't a
Yeah.
thing back then. So I ended up in social work school, realized a year into social work school that wasn't quite it. Ended up living in California, figuring out myself while wasn't quite it. Ended up in a PhD program in social
Mhm.
psychology because I was fascinated by people.
Yeah.
So I did my PhD, but I kept having this itch of I don't study people, I want to be with people.
Mhm.
Um, and life path took me to working at Facebook.
Mhm.
And I loved what Facebook was about at the time around wanting to make the world more open and connected. And
Mhm.
what was my
Yeah.
role in helping people connect? And so was there for about 3 years, and this is where things took a turn. So February is always a big month for me. It was when February is when I met you, but
Yeah.
February 2017, um, we were in the midst of trying to get Facebook stories launched, and I was leading the
Mm.
research team around what do people want in stories, and can
Yeah.
we add this? And my mom got really sick. Um,
Mhm.
Out of the blue, we were at my grandmother's funeral, and she says, "Hey, my back's really hurting." And a week later, her husband called me and said, "Hey, you got to fly down to Arizona. She's going into emergency
Mhm.
surgery." And turned out she had like a softball size staph infection in her spine.
Mhm.
Did surgery, and then when she came out of surgery, she didn't wake up. She was still here, but
Oh.
the infection had gone all through her. It turned into spinal meningitis, which
Mhm.
I had no awareness of what that meant, but in and now learning about it, it is really not good.
Yeah.
So for 3.5 weeks, I believe it might have been even more, she was in the ICU, comatose,
Mhm.
fighting for her life.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I was trying to maintain a team at Facebook.
Yeah. It's a
And
lot.
so I'm sitting there in the waiting room of the ICU, leading my team, analyzing data that Mark Zuckerberg might look at, and
Mhm.
worried about, am I going to lose? I just got a manager role. Am I going to lose my manager role if I spend time with my mom? And then, of course, anytime I'm not focusing on that, going, am I going to lose my mom?
Right.
Um, so it just became this constant tension. And thankfully, she woke back up, but
Mhm.
was told at that point she wasn't going to move again.
Right.
Um, I'll say spoiler alert, she does have everything back but walking. But
Mhm.
for 6 months, I would fly back and forth, leading my team at Facebook.
Mhm.
Every 2 or 3 weeks, flying down to Tucson, where my mom lived, and
Mhm.
um, watching her learn to move every limb, literally. Like,
Yeah.
imagine not even being able to move your finger,
Yeah. I can't
and,
imagine.
and one at a time. And every time I was with my mom, guilt. I'm not at Facebook. I'm not
Right.
working. I'm not leading my team. I'm going to get demoted. All these fears coming up. And then every time
Mhm.
I'm back with my team at Facebook, what's happening with my mom? Is
Right.
she is she doing okay? What's it like to be, laying in a hospital bed, learning to
Mhm.
move everything? And she really became my inspiration around, wait a sec, what's important?
Mhm.
What do I really want to be doing with my life?
Yeah.
Um, do I really want to be working for a company that has, at the time, it was 2 billion users. I know it's way larger now.
Yeah.
Um, or do I want to be working with people who are wanting to make change? And
Mhm.
so it took me 6 months because
Mhm.
the pull was so strong to keep going up that corporate ladder.
Sure.
So strong. And all of my identity was I am a Facebook researcher. This is the pinnacle of my career. And yet there's my mom
Mhm.
telling me,
Mhm.
no, no, there are other more important things.
Right.
So she really became my catalyst to start looking at all kinds of things, my career,
Mhm.
where I lived. So we moved back to Michigan. My mom spends her summers in Michigan. And
Mhm.
looking at a whole nother ball of wax story, but my gender and how I was expressing myself in the world.
Mhm.
Um, because you never know. In an instant, life can go from happy, healthy to,
Hmm.
we almost lost her.
Yeah.
And what was I doing? Chasing achievement,
Hmm.
not chasing what actually lit me up and was most important to me.
That, that. I so relate to that. Mine, just like when I got diagnosed with cancer after both my brother and sister having it when they were, well, my sister still had it. My brother he was diagnosed at 17 with Hodgkin's, but then he survived it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I got diagnosed, it was just 2 months after my mom passed away from dementia. It's like, whoa, what am I doing? It's time to do something else. So I really relate to
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah. I've had this conversation with a friend of mine who lost her brother, and I keep hearing this like, I wish we didn't have to have these tragic events to wake up to the question of what am I doing?
Exactly.
Which is
But I
why I
don't.
love what I do in coaching. It's
Mm,
people aren't coming to me for career change at this point. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's
mm-hmm,
people who are actively saying, what am I doing? What am I creating? How am
mm-hmm.
I building the best impact life, whatever it is
Yeah.
possible? And they're not waiting for something to happen to be able
Mm-hmm.
to create that for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even like just I think as we learn and we grow, not just in the coaching world here, but as people, it's like sometimes, we don't take rest until we're knocked down flat with sickness or whatever it is. We just don't. I
Mhm.
know that that's something we'll probably talk about further in the show as well. And we're going to be taking a break in a moment, but I know that I just felt like I had to be go, 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 go to be worthy enough to sit down.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize that, well, there's so many others besides me. I just thought, well, gosh, because my mom always used to tell me, I was a stay-at-home mother for a while, and she's like, why are you always like, why can't you sit still for a moment? And I felt like I had to prove my worth because I had to keep going all the time because, hey, I got lucky to be home here. So I've got to keep going.
Yes, that is something I'm seeing in so many different people, proving our
Mm-hmm.
worth through our productivity, through the
Yeah.
achievement,
Yes.
and not slowing down to check in with what's important to me.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah. What
lights
is my
me up?
heart?
Where's my
So,
heart? Exactly.
yeah. What? I've learned finally to do that, and I think you have too. And maybe that's something in our next segment we can talk about.
Yes.
Um, we're going to take a break, everyone, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine. This is where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Dr. Erin Baker, and we have been talking about rest and how some of us, well, we don't feel perhaps worthy, or we feel like we have so much to do that it's often that we don't take the time to rest until our body either knocks us flat or some major occurrence happens in life. Like for me, it was cancer. For Erin, it was her mom and sickness and just making pivots in our lives. So, how, Erin, did you start taking the time for you and to make those decisions, allowing yourself that grace in your life?
Yeah, it's taken a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, was saying at the break that rest has really been on my mind this week because I
Mm-hmm.
needed some for myself, and
Yeah.
I'm working with some clients who need some rest. But it really started with about the time that my mom got sick, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized Facebook was killing me. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
my wife and I were in a couples therapy session talking about how to we sought out a couples therapist to help us deal with my mom's illness
Mm-hmm.
together, and
Sure.
Meryl turned to me and said, "You have to leave Facebook. It's killing you." Um, so I left Facebook, and at the same time I left Facebook, I hired my first coach, who is someone we both know, Caitlin Paget,
Mm-hmm.
and I hired her for some other different reasons, but it was the first time I'd actually invested in someone who was invested in me. And so that included rest. I went to a
Mm-hmm.
retreat that she hosted in Mexico, and I went,
Yeah.
oh, wow, this time and space to really connect is that's something. But even a year later, when I decided to leave Microsoft and start my business, my immediate thought was, okay, I left my business. How am I making money? What am I doing? Go,
Right.
go, go.
Yeah.
Um, and at the time, I took a couple of months off. Meryl and I moved from San Francisco to the Midwest,
Mm-hmm.
and I still couldn't rest. I kept being, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And it wasn't until I had a podcast interview with one of my, uh, he became a future coach. He said,
Mm-hmm.
I think you don't know what slow is.
Oh, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, I think you're so
Mm-hmm.
at the pace of Facebook and San Francisco life that you don't know what
Mm-hmm.
slow is. And he said, I think you need to develop your muscle for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
I started to, and here's what I found. And I think this is true for so many of us. Rest feels awful.
Yes, it does.
Rest feels awful when you start doing it after you've been doing. And I was
Mhm.
working crazy hours
Yeah.
when I was in Silicon Valley, like getting on a shuttle to work at 6:30 in the morning, coming home
Mhm.
6:30, 7:30 at night, and my phone's blowing up all night with work stuff, right?
Yep.
And part of the reason it feels awful is we are dealing with our adrenaline, right? We've
Mhm.
been running on hormones that are no longer there. And so there is actually like a withdrawal effect in
Right.
in our bodies. Um, but we're also dealing with all the beliefs that we have been afraid of, that
Mhm.
rest is lazy, that our
Mhm.
productivity is our worth, that slowing down is only for privileged people, and how dare us, right? So we have to start
Yes.
facing all these messages that I'll say honestly have come to us from society around how we're supposed to operate, and we're facing them and we have no other belief to replace it with.
Mhm.
We haven't been taught to rest. And so we've got all these
Yeah.
thoughts swirling, coming off the adrenaline, and then we're starting to feel emotions that we haven't felt in a long time. Because if we're doing, it's easy not to feel, right?
Right. Right.
And then our body, we're starting to feel our body, right? In ways that we haven't. I mean, I've heard so many people talk about, whoa, when I used to come home from college, I'd always get sick. Right. Because your body would take a deep breath and
No
it would
doubt.
say, all right, we're stopping.
Mhm.
Rest feels just freaking awful for all these different reasons. And so it's so
Mhm.
easy just to say, I'm not going to do that. And so it's still a journey for
Yeah.
me every
Mhm.
day to check in. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about, 6 months rest, 2 weeks rest, 1 week rest.
Mhm.
I'm talking about even taking rest in those moments where it's like, you know what, my brain's done for the day,
Yeah.
and going, okay, slow down.
Mhm.
And I have to
Yep.
remind myself, this is not, my body knows more than society about what I can do.
Mhm. I want to ask if you don't mind, because this may help someone else. And it was definitely like a question in my mind when your wife told you Facebook is killing you, you need to stop. Were you okay with that? Or was that like, no, wait a minute, that's my decision?
Um, I wasn't okay with it, but for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
She hit me with a truth.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, she hit me with a truth, and I was so scared of what it meant to leave Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for a whole host of reasons. So I lived in San Francisco and Facebook was 30 miles away. And so my whole social life was being at Facebook at work. All of my colleagues were my friends. I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
time to make a community. So like
Right.
I'm leaving my people. Um
Yeah.
I'm studying something, I'm helping in my head, helping the world, right? Be more open and connected. I'm getting to do my dream job. So I'm leaving my dream job and I don't know what's next. And all I thought was, but there's nothing better than Facebook. This is the best company in the world to work at. Look at all the ways they've been so helpful in helping work in my schedule to go see my mom. Look at all the
Right.
things. What am I gonna? I'll have nothing if I leave Facebook. And so when she hit me with "you've got to
Get it.
leave," it was, I know you're right. I know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Yeah.
so terrified because I know
Mm-hmm.
what's on the other side, and I don't know if it's any better.
Right. Right. I think that's so powerful and so real, and not everybody would admit it in the way that you did.
Yeah.
Because it is scary. It's scary to jump out into entrepreneurship. I was a
Yeah.
paralegal for most of my life until
Yeah.
2012 when I brought it home.
Yeah. And I didn't
No.
even go straight to entrepreneurship. I went to
Mhm.
Microsoft,
Yeah.
a new job, because I wasn't quite ready.
Hmm.
And then it was thankfully working with Caitlin as my coach
Hmm.
and doing some other exploration around my gender and what I wanted that I finally said,
Yeah.
okay, I'm off the ladder.
Hmm.
It was probably the second big, I don't know which one was a bigger leap of faith. There was a gender thing, top
Hmm.
surgery, which whole nother story, or if leaving corporate to start my business was a leap of faith, but it was a giant
Yeah.
leap of faith because I
Hmm.
wasn't sure if coaching was the thing. I knew that
Right.
it was benefiting me. I had
Hmm.
no idea if I could be an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
We were moving back to Michigan, and
Hmm.
my career in tech, there isn't an equivalent. There kind of is, but not really. So there wasn't a fallback option.
Right.
Um, but the deeper calling was, I have to try this.
Hmm.
I have to be.
Hmm.
My wife was wanting to be near her family in Ohio. I wanted to be
Hmm.
near my mom in the summers.
Hmm.
And I had this, itch from undergrad of wanting to help people. And
Right.
so I often say sometimes the thing that makes me move is when the fear of what if I don't is bigger than the fear of what if I do.
Right. To be left with that regret.
Exactly.
Ah,
Yeah.
man.
And I'm so grateful that Meryl, my wife, said Facebook is killing you because
Hmm.
I couldn't have done it on my own. And I don't think I could have done it if she'd said it like, at the dinner table. It was
Right.
in context of working with this woman on our how are we collectively, you know, grieving and dealing with my mom's illness.
Right. Right. Yeah. The place
Mhm.
was right. And
Mhm.
she was sincere
Mhm.
and more caring about you than anything else
Oh
in
yeah.
your life
Well, and her,
together.
yeah,
Hmm.
our life together, right?
Hmm.
Um
Yep.
and seeing that there was so much more possible,
Hmm.
couldn't I couldn't see it for myself. So I had to trust her. I had to trust myself, right? That I was going towards something. And
Right.
I made a decision that every decision was a step forward, not one backwards. And so that just helped
Hmm.
me through.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Another thing on rest too, do you think, how do I segue into this? Um, I feel like so many of our young people, like I have a 23-year-old, 21-year-old, 17, they're much more anxious, much more stressed out. Not to say that I wasn't, I was going through a lot in my life too. And I know at least 15 years older than you. So I'm just like, wonder where my mom never hesitated resting. It wasn't an issue at all. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it was, and part of it was because my former mother-in-law, when I was married
Mm-hmm.
previously, she didn't believe that a woman should ever be home with her kids or anything like that. We just, because she was never able to, go, 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 go,
Yep.
go, go. So I know that was part of my not not being able to rest, how it got started. Like I wasn't good enough if I wasn't just go, go, go. So when do you think that shifted? Like from like when, like what era per se did it get so out of balance, like this craziness?
That's a good question. and I know we have a little bit of not too much time before the next commercial break, but I will
Yeah.
say it's accelerating the pace of life, the pace of
Hmm.
technology, the
Yeah.
pace of capitalism. Capitalism isn't
Hmm.
bad, but it has created a lot, and I think it's gotten worse and worse over.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And there doesn't seem to be like, except for those of us that teach it and are trying to welcome rest in ourselves, that it's not going to change because
No,
it,
we have to resist. We
yeah.
have to resist the urge to keep being productive
Yeah.
and resist the societal continuing to pace up and do more and more and more.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, we have to work on that. And of course, us as coaches, we're going to be teaching that. And I, I want to, I think I'm feeling like a pull of more young people to do something more with young people because I believe the anxiety is just getting out of hand in
Mhm.
the younger generation. So, all right, everyone, we will be right back. We're going to take a short commercial break and we'll see you soon. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Dr. Erin Baker, and we've been talking about all kinds of good stuff, rest and entrepreneurship and so many things. So we are going to now talk about inclusion. So, Erin, what does the word mean to you? And just there's so many parts to that. What does it mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So it starts with what a lot of people have heard in the societal realm, right? Diversity
Mm-hmm.
and inclusion. What does that
Yes.
mean? Right. And it starts with this idea, right, that we are a society of diversity in
Mm-hmm.
gender, in race, in neurotypicality, in
Right.
abilities, in wealth, income, all kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And political diversity.
For
So
sure.
for me, inclusion is not necessarily about um, what most people think. I'm trying to think of how I want to say this, but it's all about how do we become a more welcoming society, right? How do
Mm-hmm.
we, learn to love and each other and work with each other. And there's just so much you know, non-inclusion really in the
Mm-hmm.
world, right? There's racism, there's homophobia, transphobia, ableism,
For
political
sure.
divides, all of that. The word welcoming is really what's coming to me right now. And
Mm-hmm.
the title I wanted to give to you for this show today is Inclusion is an Inside Job. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one of the questions that you can ask yourself is what's in the way of a more inclusive society,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why are we homophobic, transphobic? Why are we a
Mm-hmm.
racist society? And yes, I'm
Right.
going to say we all have parts of us that have been programmed to have racism in us.
Yeah.
Um, why do we have these political divides? And what it comes back to is we have a lot of fear, right, around
Mm-hmm.
other people. And as I've dived into this personally because of my own gender,
Mm-hmm.
I'm non-binary in my gender, and I'm in a non-heterosexual marriage. As I've dived
Mm-hmm.
into this, what I've learned is that the reason we have a hard time including others is that we actually have a hard time including all of ourselves.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is just just think about what are the parts of yourself that you're stuffing down?
Yes.
Is it the part of you that gets angry? Is it the part of you who wants to rest? Is it the part of you who is free spirited? We have all these different, you can even think of ourselves as having multiple parts, right? When you say things like, oh,
Right.
a part of me feels this or a part of me feels
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
We have parts of ourselves that we're literally cutting off, stuffing down, or
Mm-hmm.
exiling.
Mm-hmm.
And usually those things that we're stuffing down, exiling in ourselves are the things we're most afraid of in others.
Right. Oh, that's, yes, powerful.
Right.
Mm.
So even thinking about um, Martine, what's something, I'm putting you on the spot here, but what's something
No,
you
it's
judge
fine.
about other people?
What do I
'Cause we
judge
all
about
judge.
other people?
Yeah. What do you judge? Think of a judgment you had recently.
Hmm. Sometimes things just come around like, God, God, they just look weird. Like they're dressed weird. They just look like, why the heck would they go out of the house looking like that?
Great. So why in the heck would they go out of the house looking like that? Martine, how often do you ask yourself, what am I going out in the house wearing? How do I look
Often.
to, right?
Oh,
So
often.
if you were someone who were completely, if you were completely free spirited and didn't
Mhm.
care what you looked like going out of the
Right.
house,
Right.
I guarantee you wouldn't be thinking that about other people.
Right.
So
I
what we judge
agree.
about others is something we're afraid of in ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And that's the same thing. Um, there's something we're afraid of when we're judging people of other races, of other
Sure.
genders, right?
Sure.
And so a lot of the work I've been doing on myself and now do with my clients is let's get to know all those parts of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
What if we welcome that part of you that's judgy about other people, you know, leaving the house looking weird? What if we
Yeah.
include the part of ourselves that worries about our weight, or the part of us that
Mm-hmm.
worries about being accepted, or the part of us that worries about being too angry? What if we welcome
Mm-hmm.
it?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not saying we excuse it, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But what if we get to know it? What if we ask, okay, judgy part,
Mm-hmm.
what role do you have in my system? What are you trying to protect me from? What are you afraid of? Right? So, what is your judgy part afraid of? The one that judges people for looking weird outside of the house?
That is really that's yeah. I am learning to be a little nicer with myself. Like, why? How could you get so angry like that? What is wrong with you? Instead of like, all
Mhm.
right. And yes, going out. Oh God, example. People talk about if you want to see some people or whatever, go to Walmart because they go dressed like all these weird ways or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, I am afraid of somebody judging me because, well, I went out in my pajama bottoms or whatever kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I that's
Yeah.
so much truth there.
Right. And there's a
Uh,
part of you probably that judges you for going out in your pajama
sure,
bottoms, because there's a
absolutely.
part of you that says, "What the heck, Martine?
Yeah,
Like, you're lazy, you're
exactly.
dirty, you're slothy." And what
Hmm.
it comes to at the core is that we are so afraid that we're not enough. And this ties
Hmm.
back to rest
Hmm.
and proving our worth, right? We are walking around, every single human on this earth, afraid that we're not enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we put up all these walls, judgments, and emotions in order to
Hmm.
protect from finding out that we aren't.
Right, right. Do you
And
think it
so
has
those
any?
part, go
I'm
ahead. Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
Do you
I was gonna say
think
those. So
there's?
that
Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
I was, I was just gonna say this last part, which is, so we're so afraid we're not enough, and so there's all these parts of us trying to protect us, but then we don't like them either, right? And
Right.
so what we're walking around is like trying to constrict and be enough,
Hmm.
and all of that is cutting us off from who we really are and who we want to really be, and then it's cutting us off from really being compassionate and kind towards other people,
For sure. For
because they're
sure.
probably doing the thing that we want to be doing. You have joy? Oh,
How
secretly
dare
I want
you?
more. How dare you
Yeah.
have joy?
Yeah.
Secretly I want more joy.
Yeah.
But go
Yeah.
ahead with your
I
question.
I'm
I know I
just
cut you off.
wondering, in thinking of this, processing this, do you think there's a time, maybe like, for example, like this weekend, I went to Target and I just had on leggings and a sweat top and I didn't care at all. It wasn't like an issue to me at all. Or some days like today, I guess, trying to be professional and I'm wearing my hair looks like shit hat. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm a little more concerned today, but on Saturday I could care less. Do you think there's just like a time, or we're feeling better about ourselves one day or not the next, and then we're more judgy?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely. We're humans.
Hmm.
So we're going to go through cycles of feeling better or not. It's more about learning to be aware of what's going on when we feel that way.
Right.
And I'm not saying, hey, go show up everywhere in your sweatpants,
Yeah.
right? Because, yeah, you probably wouldn't feel good showing up on this show in your sweatpants.
No.
It wouldn't feel good internally.
No.
Not because of society, but just because it wouldn't feel good. But
Yeah.
it's asking yourself, what have you decided you're not allowed to wear on this show?
Right. That's true. That's very true. I have found, I don't know if it's with you, but like being an entrepreneur, if yeah, all of us could wear PJs most of the time if we want, but I don't feel productive if I do.
Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's times when we feel more or less enough, and we're going to feel triggered by that. If we have an experience where something brings up that shame we have, and it could stick with us, right? So, if you are feeling really good about yourself at Target and then someone says, Martine, you're such a slob.
Yeah.
That could just have you go, oh, right? Can't be a slob
For
anymore.
sure.
Like, that's a small one. Imagine like this happens to all kinds of things. So, a comment from a parent when you're a kid now gets embedded in now a way of how you have to be in the world, and you cut off that part of you, right? So if going back to my gender, right? Like I was more masculine as a kid. And I was fine with that until some kids started bullying me at school. And suddenly I cut off all of that expression for so long.
Yep.
And then I'm walking around with internalized homophobia because at the time gender was not on my radar, but probably some internalized transphobia because how dare they be, expressive in their body when I'm, being bullied.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. No doubt about
think
it.
of all these little lashes you get over time. These wounds that then tell you, okay, cut off parts of yourself to the point where you're cutting off parts of yourself and you're cutting off all your connection to other people. You're hating other people. You're judging other people. You're scared of other people.
Yep.
No wonder we have divides. No wonder.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. 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 Gosh. It's just the resentment of things that have come at you. And it just shuts us off from our whole purpose, our mission, everything. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I relate to that for sure. So Erin, where can everybody find you?
They can find me on Instagram right now at Dr. Erin M. Baker. Turns out there's a lot of Erin Bakers out there when I took my wife's name. So Erin at Dr. Erin M. Baker. Or they can find me on my website at www.erinmbaker.com. Awesome.
Yeah. We're going to take a break here for a moment. And then when we get back, let's talk about joy.
Okay.
We all need more of that. And as I mentioned the other day when we had a chat that one of our colleagues said, I will do anything and everything to protect my joy. And then ever since I've heard that, which was quite a few years ago, it's really like, it's just resonated and it comes up quite a bit. So I know you've been working on that and talking about that too. So when we get back, that's what we'll be talking about is joy.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Dr. Erin Baker, and we have been talking about everything from rest to inclusion to all kinds of transformation and, well, everything. And we want to talk about joy. What does joy mean to you? And like seeking joy in everything we do. Like on our break, we were talking about, both of us, that we've really found our rhythm, what we love doing. And life can be very joyful when you're tuning into what makes you truly joyful. So what do you think, Erin? Joy all the time?
Joy all the time. Well, sort of. I will say,
yeah.
There's a way in which we tell people that we need to be happy all the time. It's almost like a toxic positivity of
True.
everything's happy, stuff down, right? Include all of your emotions. We're going to go with conclusion here. So
Yeah.
I'm all about finding ways to be more joyful when
Mm-hmm.
appropriate, while
Yeah.
not bypassing the other emotional experiences.
Right.
So joy is something that I've been really playing with, because turns out when I started my business, the first thing I did was make myself miserable. And there's a whole lot behind that. So the last year or two, I've been really exploring specifically what does it mean to be joyful in my business, but joyful in general. And something I've been even working on is, well, what's the definition of joy? So I've looked at academic articles, and what I've come to is there's this definition out there somewhere that says, I don't know how to describe it. Nobody does, but we all know when we have it, and we all know when we've lost it. And I went,
for sure.
good enough for me.
Yeah.
Good enough for me. But something that's really striking for me is how often joy is not allowed to be a goal, right? Achievement's a goal. Productivity is a goal. Joy? No. That's for kids. That's for younger folks, right? And it really came out strikingly for me. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine on Wednesday night. She's super ambitious, works for an accounting firm. She's on the Canadian cricket team. She's got her own podcast, and she's a side hustler going full-time entrepreneur. So she's ambitious, doer, right?
Yeah.
She was saying one of her favorite quotes is, chase excellence and success will chase after you. And so I said, try this on for me, Mark. Chase joy and success will chase after you. And she said, yeah. And then she went, nope, my body said no. And I said, tell me more. And she said, my immediate thought was, I am going to be on the couch watching Netflix, eating McDonald's. I can't chase joy. And I'm going to use a swear word, but she said, joy makes me a lazy motherfucker.
Dang.
So we have been programmed to believe joy is the opposite of what we want, opposite of success, opposite of creation. We've been programmed to believe that the joyful activities are the ones that are going to sabotage us, right? And I said to Mark, I said, when's the last time you let yourself sit on the couch watching Netflix, eating McDonald's? And she said, I have no idea. And I said, is it possible that's something that you want and that you're denying yourself? And she went, wow. So yeah, joy is this thing that we think is forbidden. And something I have started to really see is the more I put joy as the priority in my business and in my life, the more success I have. So that quote, chase, when you place excellence and say, chasing joy, chase joy and joy will, or success, words, chase joy and success will chase after you, is so true. And, you and I were talking at the break about Instagram. I'm currently on I'm in a joyful marketing class, but I'm also on a joyful exploration of Instagram. What does it mean for me to show up and post only the things that bring me joy? And it's not that I'm posting, cat pictures, or there are some of those, but like posting for me, being selfish and posting for me. And I cannot tell you how many people have messaged me behind the scenes saying, I really love what you're sharing right now. More, please. I can't tell you how many followers, I haven't put a lot of attention on Instagram, but like I've gotten new followers and people saying, we want more of you. So I want to put this in the ether that we're allowed to chase joy. That joy is more than just Netflix and McDonald's, but that's okay. And that if we make it priority, we might actually create the success, whatever success means to us, that we've been so craving and so far away from in our joyless striving.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Man. And just think about, one of your quotes, I sought joy, I found me.
Yeah.
You might want to share a little bit about where that came from, because that is, well, I think helpful to everybody.
Yeah. So I was in a coaching community last fall and we were asked to write our 6-word memoir. And the
Mm-hmm.
first 6-word memoir that came out was, I did it all for my cat. And then I went,
Yeah.
okay, Erin, be serious. And I went, oh, I sought joy, I found me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought recently, I sought me, I found joy. And
Mm-hmm.
they're both true.
Yeah.
When I follow my joy, I follow the things I like. When I
Mm-hmm.
follow my joy, I do things the way I like to do them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more I look into my joy, the more I learn about myself, the more
Mm-hmm.
parts of me become included.
Yeah.
And the other way around, the more I try to get to know who I am, what lights me up, how my brain works, how my body works,
Yeah.
the more I align everything I do with me, the more joy I feel.
Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
so it's this really delicious experience of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, joy and inclusion are the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how wonderful is it that the more I get to go inward and learn about who I am, the more
Mm-hmm.
joy I feel. And then the more joy I feel, the more I learn about who I am. It's
For sure. Yeah, that
wonderful.
like really like sets good with me because I know that I've learned that the more that I take time to listen to my body and what she's telling me, it's a game changer.
Which is why we need rest, so we
Mm-hmm.
can slow down and listen.
Yes, yes,
See,
yes.
it all ties up. These all 4
It
segments
does. It
beautifully.
does. Yes, it's been a fabulous show.
Yeah.
So what would you speak to someone who you just happened to meet, like say right after the show, and she's like, God, I love what you said, and how can I find more joy and rest and myself?
I would say start with asking yourself every day, what brings me joy? Start looking at
Mm-hmm.
the activities you're doing in your life. You could do like
Mm-hmm.
what I call a joy audit. Look at all the
Yeah,
people in your life, all the
like that.
activities in your life that bring you joy. And then look at the opposite, right? What's not?
Mm-hmm.
And then just ask yourself, are those activities that are not bringing me joy or people, can I find ways to bring joy? Or do I just need to get rid of them? And then those things that do bring me joy, just how can I have more of that?
For sure. And it's that curious part, right?
Yes, getting
How can I
curious.
have that? And you
Yeah.
kind of like feel into it and it feels good. Like how can
Yeah.
I? It's really cool.
And go experience the joy and of the success, because our bodies don't know that we can have success through joy until we actually go try it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So one more time, where can everybody find you? And
Yes.
then we will be done.
Joyfully on my Instagram at
Yes.
Dr. Erin M. Baker. And then also on my website, www.erinmbaker.com. I write a weekly newsletter. So that's also a possible way to connect with me. And I'd love to hear
Yes.
people's thoughts on joy, on inclusion, on rest, on all of it.
Absolutely. And everybody, it's, I know it's on the screen, but Erin, Erin, and don't forget the M. Thank you
Thank you.
so much,
Thank you, my
Erin.
friend.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next Friday. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.